everybody. Welcome to Meditative Astrology. I'm Alyssa, and today we're going to talk about the astrology of October 26th through November 1st. There's a ton of aspects, so we're going to try to stay straight to the point with all of these. We're going to get through all of that. Before we do, I want to give you an invitation to go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not. That way you don't miss any of these weekly videos, or you don't miss any of the live meditations that we have. Every Sunday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we have a live stream meditation right here on YouTube where we get together, we talk about the astrology, we look at it maybe in a little bit different light than we do here in the live video, and then we meditate on it. When we're meditating, when we're sitting in that silence and we are contemplating, we are creating personal relationships with the astrology and the energy that is around us. Astrology, the placements, the transits, they give us invitations. They give us invitations to consider different energies, to look at different processes and paths within our lives, and they're activated. Different areas are activated during these portions. So we can sit in silence and we can create personal relationships within a community space. So join us live 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time Sundays. There's a couple Sundays where we don't necessarily have them here at the end of October, but if you hop over to the social media, Facebook, Instagram, that's where any updates are. So if there is any announcements or updates, or if there's not going to be a meditation or something like that, that is all shared to social media. So go ahead and subscribe here on YouTube, as well as like and follow on Facebook and Instagram. There you will also see the weekly intention. Comes out Fridays ahead of the weekly video, ahead of the live meditation. That weekly intention is astrologically guided as well, and it's a phrase. It's a phrase for you to contemplate on and sit with through the weekly video, through the meditation, and bring into your week. So yeah, like, follow, subscribe on all of the things. Let's go ahead and get right into this week. We start out on Sunday without any aspects. We follow the moon through its transits here. And we go ahead and move forward right into Monday, October 27th. This is where the action picks up. Last week, we talked about the trines that Mercury was making to Jupiter and Saturn, creating a grand water trine. Now this week, we're going to talk about Mars moving through some of those placements. Mars and Mercury conjoined in the sign of Scorpio, so Mars is moving kind of in the path that Mercury did, but just a couple days behind it here. So Mars in the sign of Scorpio, Mars here really likes to dig really deep, right? Likes to get to the nooks and crannies. It likes to look really, really deep into the dark. It's motivated to uncover that which is unseen. Mercury, nope, not Mercury, Jupiter. Jupiter is in the sign of Cancer, where it's exalted, by the way. And here, Jupiter in Cancer wants to nourish. It wants to feed. It wants to strengthen through comfort and care. So it wants to care and nourish and comfort through knowledge, through insights, through abundance, through Jupiter, right? Through understandings and through wisdom. Here in the sign of Cancer, a space where we get a space where which we came from, right? Jupiter, Cancer is on the ascendant of the theme of Mundi, the birth chart of the universe. So you get this space of birthing and that which is coming into the world in the sign of Cancer. So you get what has come just before that, right? So you get ancestry, you can get lineage knowledge that is coming through here, right? So the exploration and the discovery of generational karma and the background, what has come before you, as far as like your own personal history. So the memory body, our conscious and subconscious mind, the conditionings that we have, the ones we're aware of and the ones that we're not necessarily aware of. But then moving beyond that, moving back to our past lives, moving to that which we've inherited from our family and the generations that have come before us. Any of those that you subscribe to, then those can be in play here for sure. There's a lot about beliefs, Jupiter. There's a lot about emotional care and actions here. Water signs deal with the emotions, right? They deal with our feelings, they deal with our connections to people, our connections to things and to ideas. Those are the water signs. So acting on those emotional connections, when you have Mars in one of those water signs trining Jupiter here. Subconscious exploration, So Cancer representing what has come before us, so that family, that ancestry, that generational thing, as well as our own memory body, so our own personal history as well as a family history as well. And Mars and Scorpio, digging deep within, right? So exploring those dark, hidden, feminine yin places, right? So subconscious exploration. Mercury came through this last week, and Mercury maybe for some of us, activated the mind. Maybe it acted as a little bit of a stimulus, right? Maybe we started asking questions, or there was some sort of information that was introduced to us. Now that Mars is coming through this position, maybe Mars is making us follow through and follow up with it, right? So maybe we learned about a new subject when Mercury and Jupiter came together. Now we are going to take action to really experience whatever that subject or that information was that came through, right? Maybe it could be something kind of like that. So acting on the wisdom that has come through, really feeling its power and strength, and maybe a little bit of vulnerability within these water signs is a possibility at the beginning of this week. You know, Jupiter expands whatever it touches, right? And when we think about Jupiter, we like to think about positive expansion and abundance and luck and generosity, which all is very much Jupiterian. But Jupiter expands whatever it touches. So if Cancer is a sensitive space when we're talking about family and generational things, then it might be sensitive information that's coming through, right? Or insights around sensitive or vulnerable spaces. And Scorpio is a vulnerable water sign as well, right? As hard as it likes to pretend that it can be sometimes, there's a lot of vulnerability and emotional well-being in the water signs, right? So looking at emotional safety in the sign of Cancer, looking at maybe some emotional intelligence or awareness in the sign of Scorpio here. So emotional transformation can come through here, and it can occur, but pain can also be felt here too. So the hope is that there's growth that comes from any of that pain and any difficult processing that may be coming through here, because it is possible. When we have a trine with Jupiter, that does not necessarily mean that everything is all roses, right? Like I think I said last week that too much of a good thing is no longer a good thing. I think I was talking about Neptune when I said that potentially. So yeah, that's where we start out at the beginning of this week. If we go ahead and move forward into Tuesday, October 28th, Moon in Capricorn before moving into the sign of Aquarius, and Mercury is going to make a trine to Neptune. So Neptune's at the later degrees of Pisces compared to Saturn. So that's why Mercury's making that trine just a little bit later. When I'm thinking about Mercury and Neptune, Mercury again being that mental sphere, I'm thinking about an expanded mental space in some way, right? So Neptune can expand by dissolving other things that are around us, right? It can really make us feel deeply connected to something, but if you are really focused on one thing, if something has your full attention, then it's only natural to take your attention away from other things, right? Like your undivided attention goes to one thing, not other things at the same time. So being able to expand the mental sphere to be able to dial in emotionally to whatever is calling for us, right? Making space for the water to flood in. What is the water again? It's our connections, personal and relational. It's our feelings, it's our emotions that are coming through here, right? So clearing a space for really feeling those emotions and having them really coming in, and those connections coming in really deep, really strong, and feeling awfully connected to those things, right? Neptune can really make us feel intoxicated by something, right? So if we are feeling mentally intoxicated by Mercury and Neptune, are we caught up by something that is positive, something that's going to serve us well? Are we feeling swept away by a creative pursuit and we are focusing on, something that we are putting together, right? Something that, maybe a piece of art that you are very passionate about, but you don't do anything else until you get that done. Hopefully if it's, something that's a little bit more escapism-like, and we are moving out of reality when we should be more in reality, then maybe that might be a little bit more difficult here. When When I'm thinking about the water and the water trines here, especially with Neptune and Mercury, I'm thinking about the ability to purify and adapt. I think about Neptune as a planet that can purify, and I think about water as adaptable. So Neptune dissolves as well as connects us to something divine, something greater than ourselves, right? That can be creator, that can be the universe. It doesn't have to be, but it often is. But it can just be something that we believe or trust so much in that we have blind faith. I am so inspired by this project, and I know that it's just going to be something so big and beautiful that I am going to put my all into it, right? Or you're just really inspired to get something done or to move in a certain way. So you really lean into that type of energy. That's Neptune making a space, purifying a space for you to be able to really focus in and really dial in on whatever the thing is. Again, is it more positive or is it a little bit, a little less positive? That's another story. And then when I think about purifying, I'm thinking about water. So water, when something is dirty, what do? We wash it, and we wash it with water, right? We pour water on it. So I'm thinking about like mentally washing our mind, not like brainwashing, but just mentally clearing, right? Neptune can also make things kind of foggy, so it may be kind of a space where we feel like we need mental purification, right? Where like, I need to be able to sort these things out. I need to be able to clear and wash. I need to be able to cleanse the palette. I need to be able to start over. I need to be able to wash away these impurities, and then finding a way to do so. Adaptability. Water within its own right is adaptable. If you have a glass of water and you tip it upside down and you try to pour it into a pile, it's just going to disperse all over, right? It's just going to make its way as far as it can, and things are going to get all wet. If you take the earth element, if you take a cup of dirt, you can pour it into a pile, right? Depending on how you pour it. It might disperse some, but you can keep somewhat of a form where the water just kind of goes into a puddle and it just kind of keeps going until it reaches some sort of border. That water needs that container. So water within its own right is adaptable, and it can shift. So the ability to purify and to adapt and to shift our focus and really dive deep into something is very possible here. And washing away those impurities, the perceived impurities are not always clear, right? So like what we are thinking to be an impurity, is it really something that needs to be washed away? Neptune can be foggy, it can be misleading, it can be dissociating. So make sure what we're leaning into is really something that's going to help us and be beneficial. It's not gonna lead us astray somehow. Those trines, they expand, right? But too much of a good thing is not necessarily a good thing. So yeah, cravings, mental cravings, and feeling the longings for something here. So that's what we have coming through on Tuesday. If we go ahead and move forward into Wednesday, you can see that we have a ton of aspects here, right? The moon's in the sign of Aquarius, and Mercury moves into the sign of Sagittarius, where it's going to have its retrograde. So there are shifts coming in the Sagittarius house in our chart for all of us. That retrograde will move back and dip back into Scorpio. So tying the Scorpio and Sagittarius houses together, looking at those house topics and seeing where you feel the winds of change. Do you feel a shift? Do you feel a longing for a shift coming through in these signs? Because there will be a revisiting and there will be a reconfiguring through that retrograde process. And Mercury is going to make a lot of these aspects that it's making here in this time frame again through its retrograde process, including the opposition to Uranus that we're going to talk about for today. So Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter's in the sign of Cancer. So and that trine to Jupiter is one of those aspects that Mercury is going to make again. So it feels like those Cancerian topics and those watery topics that we've been talking about are really involved for Mercury in Sagittarius and through the Mercury retrograde process that's going to be coming up. Mercury in Sagittarius, being ruled by Jupiter, likes to broaden its perspectives. It likes to look to understand. It likes to experience in a Sagittarian type way. It can be optimistic. It can be positive. It can be forward moving and wanting to bring in experiences, wanting to bring in new information, new knowledge. So maybe even if we're bringing some heavy things in with Jupiter and Cancer, maybe it's okay. Maybe we feel the desire to move forward into that thing. Like, it's okay. I can move forward into this energy, and I can see what I can do with it. Right? It's different for all of us. So yeah, really broadening those perspectives and broadening the horizons and wanting to bring in more, wanting to ask questions with Jupiter, Mercury in Jupiter's sign. I think about Mercury and I think about wanting to look at the little teeny pieces, the little information. I think about Jupiter, I think about the whole perspective. So maybe we want to understand the little bits as well as the big broad perspective, and then you really have the whole picture there, right? So that's kind of cool and kind of interesting. We can note that Mercury in Sagittarius is opposite its domicile, so it's considered to be depressed in the sign of Sagittarius. That's really just that broad picture versus small detail thing. So maybe if we can marry the two together, yay, there we go, right? Good things. Mercury, as it moves into the sign of Sagittarius, it's going to oppose Uranus. There's lots of ideas, lots of questioning coming through here, right? There's philosophy and different understandings, but really, really wanting to understand these philosophies and these schools of thought that are coming in, right? And the knowledge and the information, really wanting to understand it fully, and then being able to find some sort of breakthroughs in our thinking. Maybe there is some revolution in our mind that happens, or an inventiveness. Maybe we can see a different perspective, or there's a new creative way of understanding things. Maybe we're able to think outside of the box and have some sort of new, maybe even unpredictable understandings that can come through. Knowledge is sought in the sign of Sagittarius, and Uranus in Gemini likes to invite a ton of information in, right? Gemini is Mercury's sign, as we just mentioned. So that's where Uranus is at. It likes to ask questions. It likes to bring in more information. It likes to bring in more understandings, more little teeny pieces of information. Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, likes to bring the whole perspective. So you see how we have lots of input, lots of information, and that can almost be overstimulating, right? It can also have the desire to be very expressive, very communicative, and share ideas, thoughts, opinions, beliefs. So there may be a lot of talking back and forth. There may be a lot of communicating and a lot of sharing of ideas here as this transit is coming through here. And then we also have Mars making the trine to Saturn for that grand air trine coming through to perfection this week. You can think of this week as the grand air trine for Mars, last week for the grand air trine for Mercury. First the mind, the stimulation, right? The awareness coming in, and then the motivation and the movement. Mars trine Saturn can be very focused and very determined. Foundations are laid here, right? It is dedicated, it is loyal, it is ambitious to succeed, but it wants to succeed within water, right? Because that's where Saturn is. It's in the sign of Pisces. So it wants to succeed within the connections, within the emotions, laying down foundations for our emotional connections and our intuitive connections, right? If you don't like the word intuitive connections or intuition, gut instinct works just as well. If the otherworldly spiritual connotation to it just doesn't work, it's that gut instinct. It's that knowing that we all have within us when something is right or something is not right. So there's foundations that are being laid. Again, maybe last week it was stimulated within our mind, but now there's motivation to move forward with it, right? And as Mercury is making the opposition to Uranus, and the mind may be expanding here, and then maybe it gives us, maybe Mercury and Uranus gives us a little courage, a little bit of bravery, a little bit of I can do this. I can do something a little bit different. I can rebel a little bit if I have to, right? I can be a little revolutionary if I have to, or if I want to even. So then that gives Mars a little extra jolt with Saturn, right? Saturn can be a little weighty, especially in the sign of Pisces. It can be a little melancholic. It can be a little bit sad, but Mars can be a little extra jolt with Saturn, right? Saturn can be a little weighty, especially in the sign of Pisces. It can be a little melancholic. It can be a little bit sad, but Mars can be a little extra jolt with Saturn, right? Saturn can be a little weighty, especially in the sign of Pisces. It can be a little bit sad, but Mars in the sign of Scorpio it's in a home sign, right? It is strong and it is emotionally convicted. So it can move forward and it can say, okay, Saturn, here we go. This is what we're going to do. And Saturn will look back at it and say, maybe this is the way we're going to do it. And they're going to work together, right? So those foundations and those structures that really can last a lifetime and really stand the test of time can be laid here as this aspect comes through here. So cool things coming through this week. Like I said, we have a ton of aspects. If we go ahead and move forward into Thursday, October 30th, this is our last major aspect that we have of the week. Mercury is going to make a little sextile to Pluto. Sextiles are not always the loudest aspects, but they can be noticeable and they can be helpful, right? They're of the nature of Venus, so they are fluid, they are connecting, they are cohesive, and they bring some sort of harmony between these two planets. So Mercury in Sagittarius and Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. Mentally exploring all that the water has brought up, right? We think about Mercury and Sagittarius and we think about broadening the perspectives. We think about wanting to seek the knowledge, wanting to seek the experiences, right? Pluto likes to dig really, really deep. So it's not going to be superficial. It's not going to let Sagittarius, Mercury and Sag flit about and, you know, not take things serious, at least for this moment here. Again, Mercury's retrograde will bring it back through the sextile here as well. So just throwing that out there. And, you know, with these two planets coming together, there can be a quick moment, maybe a subtle moment of mental strength, maybe even mental fortitude, right? The ability to persevere through difficult things. Pluto likes to bring up the deep, the dark, the unseen, the unconscious, that which is unspoken, or that which comes from the underworld in other terms. So, you know, those might be things that we don't always want to look at, but there's an endurance here with these two planets to come together. There's a deep-seated strength that comes from within to be able to strengthen that mental sphere and to maybe even have a strength that comes from within as Mercury and Sagittarius wants to know more, wants to do more, wants to experience more, wants to bring more into the headspace here, right? Both of these signs, Sagittarius and Aquarius, can be very broad picture. So thinking about Jupiter, thinking about Saturn, being the rulers of these signs, they're the farthest out of the traditional planets. So they have the widest perspective, right? If we're not looking at the outer planets, we're looking at just the traditional planets. You have Jupiter and Saturn sitting on the outskirts. So they are the teachers, the wisdom makers, and the you know, the gurus of the traditional planets in some way. So the ability to see that broad picture, to be able to broaden the horizons while digging deep within, right? Digging your heels and your toes deep into the ground, but also seeing all that's around. It's like feeling very structured and secure within a panoramic view, kind of like that. So yes, a ton of aspects, cool things that are coming through here. Thank you for walking through this week with me astrologically. If you've made it this far and you haven't already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do so that way we can walk through each week here together, those live meditations Sunday nights. Again, we have a couple weeks here at the end of October. We're not having them. That is not typical. That is just kind of life with live meditations, and life happens sometimes. So yeah, things are coming up for me the next couple weekends. So November 2nd, I believe, is the next time that we will we'll be back around here. Yeah, I guess I stopped on Thursday, so we'll go ahead and just move forward through Friday and Saturday. Even though there's no major aspects, we can go ahead and follow the moon through Aquarius and Pisces on Friday, and then Saturday, November 1st, the Pisces moon will conjoin the North Node that day. So yeah, I got through the aspects and I guess I just kind of stopped there. So sorry. Yeah, so once again, thank you for being here with me. I look forward to seeing you again next week, and I look forward to you joining us at our live meditations. Have a great day, a great week, and I'll see you next time. Take care.